You know what's funny about a five-star hotel lobby? Everyone assumes they can tell who belongs just by looking. Watch this. A woman walks into the grandest hotel in downtown Toronto on a Tuesday morning. Wool coat, worn sneakers, braids pulled into a loose bun, no makeup, no jewelry except a thin gold chain her grandmother gave her when she was 9. She's carrying a canvas tote bag with a library book poking out the top, and the front-of-house director takes one look at her and decides she's a problem. He steps right into her path. "Excuse me, ma'am. The shelter entrance is around the corner on Church Street." She looks up at him. Doesn't blink. "I'm not looking for a shelter." He smiles. The kind of smile that has nothing to do with warmth. "Sure you're not. That woman he just directed to a homeless shelter bought this hotel 6 hours ago. Every floor, every suite, every chandelier, every thread in every Egyptian cotton pillowcase. She owns this building. She owns his desk. She owns the chair he sits in every morning when he drinks his espresso and complains about the guests, and she hasn't said a single word about it yet. Let me take you back to that morning, 5 hours before the lobby, before the insult, before everything changed. Celeste Adeyemi woke at 4:45 a.m. in a rented condo on King Street West. No alarm. Her body hadn't needed one since grad school. She made her bed first. Always did. A habit from growing up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Regent Park, where everything had its place because there wasn't room for disorder. She brewed coffee in a French press, poured it into a chipped mug she'd carried through 3 apartments and 2 cities, sat cross-legged on the couch, and opened her laptop. On the screen, a 46-page acquisition agreement. The Montclair Hotel Group. 4 luxury properties across Ontario. The flagship, the Montclair Grand Toronto, a limestone heritage building on Front Street with 112 rooms, a rooftop bar that charged $28 for a cocktail, and a lobby that looked like the inside of a cathedral. On paper, stunning. Behind the curtain, bleeding money. Occupancy rates dropping for 3 straight years. Staff turnover so high the housekeeping department was running on agency workers. Management too comfortable to modernize. The board had been quietly shopping for a buyer since January. They found Celeste. Her firm Pinnacle Hospitality Partners managed a portfolio of 23 boutique hotels across Canada and the northern United States. She'd started it at 26 with a small business loan, a converted Victorian in Stratford, Ontario, and a philosophy that luxury didn't have to mean pretentious. 12 years later, her company was worth north of $400 million. No family money, no investors handing her a golden ticket. Celeste Adeyemi had built every dollar of it with her own hands, her own mind, and a stubbornness that her mother once described as frightening. At 5:15 a.m., Celeste signed the final document digitally. Wire transfer confirmed. Every share, every property, every brand asset of the Montclair Hotel Group now belonged to Pinnacle. She closed the laptop, took a long sip of coffee, and stared out the window at the city waking up below. Done. But Celeste didn't call the general manager, didn't send a company-wide memo, didn't arrange a press conference or a ribbon cutting or a champagne toast in the boardroom. Instead, she did something she always did with a new acquisition. She walked in cold. No title, no entourage, no advance notice. Just herself, dressed the way she dressed on any day off. She wanted to see the Montclair Grand as it really was, not the version that performs when the owner's watching. The Tuesday morning version, the real one. She pulled on her wool coat, grabbed her tote bag, and caught the streetcar east on King. Arrived at the Montclair Grand at 10:08 a.m. The lobby was everything old Toronto money loved to show off. Vaulted ceilings with hand-painted molding. A marble floor polished to a mirror finish. Fresh orchids on every surface. A grand staircase curving up to the mezzanine like something from a period film. Crystal chandeliers throwing soft gold light across limestone walls that had stood since 1927. Celeste walked in through the revolving door. Celeste tote on her shoulder, canvas tote on her shoulder. Library book still poking out, sneakers silent on the marble. She looked around slowly, took it in. The reception desk stretched along the far wall, dark walnut, polished brass fixtures, two staff members in tailored charcoal suits. Morning traffic moved through the lobby at a murmur, business travelers checking out. A couple in matching cashmere arguing quietly about brunch reservations. A bellhop pushing a brass luggage cart toward the elevators. Celeste approached the front desk. A young woman with blonde hair pinned back, name tag reading Kendra Paulson, mid-20s, looked up with a practiced smile. "Good morning. Welcome to the Montclair Grand. How can I help you? I'd like to speak with your general manager, Arthur Pennington. He's expecting a visit from my firm this week. I thought I'd come by early." Kendra typed something into the system, scrolled. Her smile stayed, but her eyes narrowed just slightly. "I'm not seeing anything scheduled. Could I have your name? Celeste Adiemi. More typing." The acquisition had been handled under a confidential holding company. Nothing in Kendra's system would connect the name. "I'm sorry, I'm not finding a record. Let me call up to Mr. Pennington's office. Would you mind waiting a moment?" "Of course, take your time." Celeste stepped aside, stood near the tall windows overlooking Front Street, hands in her coat pockets, watching the lobby flow, patient, still, taking mental notes the way she always did. The scuff marks on the baseboard near the elevator, the flickering bulb in the third chandelier from the left, the bellhop whose jacket was missing a button. Details nobody notices until someone who cares walks through the door. That's when the elevator chimed, and everything went sideways. Gordon Whitfield stepped out like a man who had personally laid every tile in this lobby. 53 years old, tall, silver-templed, suit pressed so sharp the creases could cut glass, pocket square folded into a precise peak. Front of house director for the Montclair Grand for the past 11 years. The kind of man who believed the building's prestige was his prestige, that its reputation was his reputation, that its marble floors and crystal chandeliers somehow reflected his own importance back at him. He scanned the lobby the way he did every morning, quick, efficient, proprietary, and he spotted something that didn't fit his picture. A black woman, casual clothes, canvas bag, no luggage, standing alone near the windows. Gordon's jaw tightened. He changed direction and walked straight toward her. He didn't stop at the front desk, didn't ask Kendra what was happening, didn't slow his stride. He walked up to Celeste the way a man approaches a pigeon that's wandered into his dining room. "Excuse me, ma'am. The shelter entrance is around the corner on Church Street." The words landed like a crack across the marble. Two guests near the concierge desk looked up. Kendra's fingers froze above her keyboard. A bellhop stopped mid-step. Celeste looked at him, calm, steady. "I'm not looking for a shelter. I'm here to see Mr. Pennington." Gordon looked her up and down. Slow, deliberate. His eyes traveled from the worn sneakers to the canvas tote bag to the library book to her face, and the assessment that played out behind those eyes was written in neon. He'd already decided what she was. Mr. Pennington is a very busy man. He doesn't take walk-ins, especially not. He paused, let the silence do the cruelty. Unscheduled ones. Celeste didn't flinch. "I spoke with his office last week. The receptionist is confirming right now." Gordon glanced at Kendra. "Kendra, did you set this up?" Kendra shifted in her chair, visibly uncomfortable. "She says she has a meeting. I couldn't find it in the system. I was about to call upstairs. Then she doesn't have one." Gordon turned back to Celeste with a thin smile. "The system says no, so it's no. This hotel has a very specific clientele. I'm sure you understand." The lobby temperature dropped. A woman in a camel coat at the concierge desk pretended to study a brochure while her eyes tracked the scene. An older gentleman near the fireplace lowered his newspaper 2 inches. Celeste's voice stayed level. "I'd like to wait until the receptionist confirms." Something cold moved behind Gordon's eyes. He straightened to his full height, broadened his shoulders. The posture of a man constructing a wall out of his own body. "I'm going to need to see some identification." He said it loud, deliberately loud, loud enough for the lobby to hear. Loud enough for Sid to turn at the concierge's desk, at the elevators, at the entrance to the restaurant where a server carrying a tray of mimosas stopped dead. Celeste paused for 1 second. Then she reached into her tote bag and pulled out her driver's license. held it out. Gordon took it, held it up to the light the way a bouncer inspects a suspect card at a nightclub door. Tilted it left, tilted it right. Read the name aloud. Celeste Adeyemi. He said it slowly, over-enunciating each syllable, making a performance of it. He didn't hand it back, he pocketed it. I'll hold on to this until we sort this out. Celeste's jaw tightened, barely. The only crack. That's my personal identification. You have no right to keep it. And you have no right to loiter in my hotel. Gordon turned and snapped his fingers. Snapped them. Actually snapped his fingers across the lobby at the security officer stationed near the service corridor. Dennis Falk, early 40s, square build, cropped hair, walked over with the reluctant pace of a man who could already see what was happening and wanted no part of it. But his hesitation lasted exactly as long as it took Gordon to fix him with that look, the one that promised consequences. What's the situation, Gordon? Gordon jerked his chin towards Celeste. Keep an eye on this one. No appointment, no reservation, no business being here. Something's not right. Dennis looked at Celeste. Celeste looked back. Their eyes met. Dennis saw exactly what Gordon refused to see. A composed woman standing quietly with her hands at her sides. Not a threat, not aggressive, not even tense, but he didn't say it. Understood. He stepped into position behind her, 2 feet back, like a shadow. Celeste felt it, the weight of being watched, monitored, suspected, not for anything she'd done. For how she looked while standing in a hotel lobby wearing the wrong clothes and the wrong skin. She'd felt this before. Different building, different city, different man blocking her path. Same script. Gordon wasn't finished. He turned back and crossed his arms, planted his feet wide. Let me ask you something. Did someone send you in here? Are you delivering something? Because if you're a courier, you drop the package at the desk and leave. That's how it works. I'm not a courier. Then what exactly is your business here? I told you. I have a meeting with Arthur Pennington. Gordon laughed. Short, sharp. The kind of laugh built to shrink another person. Arthur Pennington is the general manager of a luxury property that charges $1,200 a night for the Frontenac suite. He doesn't sit down with people who wander in off the street carrying a library bag. The words bounced off the limestone walls and hung in the air like smoke. A young black server named Theo Moreau stood near the restaurant entrance holding his tray of mimosas. His hand was shaking, not from the weight, from the kind of anger he'd learned to seal behind his teeth years ago. He'd seen Gordon pull this before. Different face, same routine. An elderly white couple near the fireplace exchanged a glance. The woman put her hand on her husband's arm. He shook his head. Not our business. They went back to their tea. Kendra sat behind the desk with her hand resting on the telephone. She could call upstairs right now. End this in 30 seconds. But Gordon was her boss, and Gordon was still talking. You know what, Kendra? Don't bother calling. I've seen enough. He stepped closer to Celeste, close enough that she could smell his cologne, close enough that the move stopped being professional and became physical. I don't know what you're doing here. Maybe you wandered in to warm up. Maybe you thought this was some kind of public space. Maybe you're lost. But let me make this very clear. He pointed at the revolving door. This hotel is not for you. Not the lobby, not the restaurant, not the washroom, nothing. Turn around and leave before I have Dennis escort you out in front of everyone. Celeste didn't move, didn't break eye contact. She stood there and absorbed every word like a woman standing in freezing rain, letting it hit, letting it run off, choosing not to react. Not because she couldn't, because she was already 5 steps ahead. And then Gordon did the thing that would end his career. He reached for her tote bag, actually reached for it, grabbed the strap and pulled. I said, "What's in the bag?" We've had theft in this hotel, guests' belongings walking out the front door. You show up with a bag nobody can verify and a voice cut through the lobby like a blade. Take your hand off her. Everyone turned. Theo Moreau had set his tray down on the concierge counter. He stood 10 feet away, still in his server's uniform, hands trembling at his sides, voice shaking but clear. She told you she has an appointment. She showed you her ID. She hasn't done a single thing wrong. You can't just grab someone's belongings because you don't like how they look. The lobby went dead silent. A guest near the elevator lowered her phone. Kendra's mouth fell open. Dennis shifted his weight, uncertain. Gordon released the padrap, turned slowly toward Theo. His face was white, not with embarrassment, with fury. You're a server. Go back to the dining room before you join her on the sidewalk. Theo didn't move. His voice cracked, but he held. I'd rather be on the sidewalk than watch this. Gordon stared at him for 3 full seconds, then dismissed him with a flick of his wrist and turned back to Celeste, his neck flushed red, his composure cracking at the edges. Now he was rattled, and rattled men escalate. He grabbed the coffee cup sitting on the ledge beside the concierge desk. A guest's abandoned latte, still half full, picked it up and held it out towards Celeste at arm's length, tilted it and let it pour. Deliberately, slowly. Brown liquid splashed across her wool coat, soaked through to her shirt, dripped onto her sneakers, pooled on the marble between their feet. The lobby gasped. One collective intake of breath from every person in the room. Kendra shot up from her chair. Dennis lurched forward and froze. Theo pressed both hands against the counter behind him, his whole body rigid. The elderly woman by the fireplace covered her mouth. Her husband set down his teacup with a clatter. Gordon looked at the stain spreading across the marble, looked at Celeste's soaked coat, looked up at her face and smiled. Health. There. Now you definitely can't stay. Health and safety. Can't have a wet mess in the lobby. One word. One thin excuse. No apology. Just that smile. That sickening, satisfied smile. Celeste looked down. Watched the coffee drip from her coat onto the floor. 1 drop, 2, 3, each one striking marble with a tiny, precise sound that in the silence of that lobby hit like a heartbeat. She looked back up, said nothing, took 1 slow breath through her nose, let it out. Then she reached into her coat pocket, pulled out her phone and dialed a single number. Mirelle, I'm in the Montclair lobby. Bring the full acquisition file. Call Arthur Pennington and tell him we're moving the announcement up. Right now. She ended the call and put the phone away. Gordon watched from across the lobby, arms folded, riding the high of his performance. He assumed she was calling a friend to come pick her up. Maybe a community legal aid worker who'd file a complaint nobody would read. He assumed wrong. He turned to the remaining guests. I apologize for the disruption, folks. We're handling an unauthorized individual. Everything's under control. 12 minutes passed. 12 minutes of silence so thick you could feel it pressing against your skin. Celeste stood exactly where she was, coffee drying on her coat. Dennis standing behind her. Gordon pretending to check his phone. Theo back in the dining room, pacing. Then the front doors opened. A woman walked in like she owned the oxygen in the room. Black, early 40s, natural hair cropped close, navy suit tailored so precisely it looked like architecture. Leather briefcase in her left hand, an expression on her face that said she already knew everything and someone was about to answer for it. Mireille Toussaint, Chief Legal Counsel for Pinnacle Hospitality Partners. Celeste's right hand for 9 years. She crossed the marble in 4 strides, didn't glance at the reception desk, didn't acknowledge Gordon, walked straight to Celeste. Ms. Adeyemi, I have everything. Arthur is on his way down. She opened the briefcase, pulled out a bound document. Heavy, official. The Montclair Hotel Group crest embossed on the cover in gold. Below it, in bold type, acquisition agreement. Final execution copy. She placed it in Celeste's hands. Gordon had been watching. His smile was gone, replaced by something twitchy. He stepped forward. Excuse me, you need to check in at the front desk before. Morel didn't look at him. I'm Miss Adeyemi's attorney. Step aside. I don't care who you. Step aside. Now. The words hit Gordon like a slap. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Then the elevator chimed. The sound cut through the lobby like a church bell. Every person turned toward those polished brass doors. They slid open, and out stepped Arthur Pennington. 60 years old, silver-haired, charcoal suit, reading glasses hanging from a chain around his neck. The general manager of the Montclair Grand for 15 years. Every employee in this building knew that face from staff meetings, holiday parties, and the framed portrait in the hallway outside the ballroom. Arthur walked across the lobby with the unhurried stride of a man who had already decided exactly what was about to happen. His eyes swept the scene. Found Celeste. Found the coffee-stained sacral through her coat. Found Mirelle standing at her side with documents in hand. His expression turned to granite. He extended his hand. Ms. Adeyemi, I'm deeply sorry to have kept you waiting. Celeste shook it. Firm. Brief. Arthur's gaze dropped to the coffee stain. His voice went quiet. The kind of quiet that made the air feel 10 degrees colder. What happened here? Celeste glanced at Gordon. Just a glance. Barely a second. Mr. Whitfield was generous enough to welcome me this morning. In his own way. Arthur turned to face Gordon. Square. Full body. The look on his face could have cracked the limestone. Gordon, do you have any idea who this woman is? Gordon's mouth moved before his brain could stop it. She didn't have a reservation. She wouldn't identify herself properly. I was following standard security. This is Celeste Adeyemi. Arthur said the name like he was reading a sentence. As of 5:15 this morning, Ms. Adeyemi is the sole owner of the Montclair Hotel Group. She purchased every property, every asset, every contract in our system, including yours. He let it land. The woman you just poured coffee on in front of this entire lobby is your new owner. She is my employer. And as of 3 hours ago, she is yours. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet, it was a vacuum. A void that swallowed every sound in the room. No footsteps, no whispered conversations, no clinking glasses from the restaurant. Nothing. Kendra's hand flew to her mouth. Dennis took 2 full steps backward. The elderly woman by the fireplace let out a sound that was half gasp, half sob. Her husband stared at Gordon with an expression of pure contempt, and Gordon Whitfield stood perfectly still in the center of that marble lobby, with his arms frozen at his sides and his jaw hanging open. The blood drained from his face so completely, he looked like a man watching his own funeral in real time. His eyes blinked. Rapid, desperate. His lips moved, but nothing came out. The swagger, the authority, the sneering superiority that had filled this lobby for the past 20 minutes. All of it evaporated in a single devastating instant. Gone, Celeste looked at him, not with rage, not with triumph, with something far worse. Calm, total unshakable calm. I came here this morning to see this hotel as it really is. To walk the hallways, meet the staff, learn the names of the people who make this place run. Instead, I was directed to a homeless shelter, interrogated, searched, accused of theft, and had coffee poured on me. In my own building. She took 1 step closer, just one. We're going to have a very different conversation now. Gordon's legs moved before his brain could catch up. He stumbled forward, hands rising. Ms. Adeyemi. Ma'am, I didn't. It was a misunderstanding. I was protecting the hotel. I had no way of knowing. Knowing what? Celeste's voice was low, every syllable precise. Knowing that a black woman in your lobby might own the building? That never occurred to you? Gordon's mouth opened, closed, opened. The coffee. It was my hand slipped. I didn't mean. Your hand slipped. Celeste repeated it slowly. After you directed me to a shelter. After you confiscated my ID. After you had security stand behind me like a prison guard. After you grabbed my bag. After you told me this hotel is not for me. She tilted her head. That's a lot of accidents for one morning, Gordon. Gordon's face crumpled. The mask was gone. The authority was gone. The man who had strutted through this lobby like a duke 20 minutes ago now stood with his shoulders caved inward and his eyes darting around the room, searching for a single friendly face. He found none. Celeste turned to Mirelle, security footage from every camera in this lobby. Preserved immediately. Every angle, every frame from 10 a.m. forward. Copies to our legal team within the hour. Mirelle was already typing. Preservation order filed before lunch. Celeste turned to Arthur, Gordon Whitfield, suspended from all duties effective immediately. Full investigation, HR, legal, compliance, every complaint ever filed against him, pulled and reviewed. Arthur nodded. Done. He turned to Gordon with the expression of a man closing a door permanently. You're relieved, Badge. Then leave. Gordon's hand shook as it moved to the lanyard around his neck. His fingers fumbled. Took 3 tries. The badge. the same badge he'd weaponized as proof of who belonged, slid off and clattered onto the marble counter. The sound echoed like a gavel. Dennis. Arthur's voice was firm. Escort Mr. Whitfield out. Dennis Falk stepped forward. The same guard Gordon had snapped his fingers at. The same man Gordon had ordered to stand behind Celeste like a warden. Now Dennis was holding the door open for Gordon. Gordon walked, one foot in front of the other, past Kendra, sitting motionless with tears running silently down her cheeks, past the concierge desk, past the fireplace where the elderly couple watched in silence, past the restaurant entrance where Theo Moreau stood in the doorway, tray in hand, watching the man who had threatened to fire him 5 minutes ago shuffle toward the exit with his head bowed and his hands empty. The revolving door turned. Morning light hit Gordon's face. Dennis stood beside the frame and watched him walk out onto Front Street, into a city that no longer had a place for him. The door completed its rotation and went still. Celeste let the silence hold. Then she turned to face the lobby. I know this morning didn't go the way anyone expected. What happened here should never happen. Not to me. Not to the next person who walks through that door. This hotel will be built on respect for every single person who enters. Starting now. She looked across the lobby and found Theo, standing in the doorway with his tray still balanced on one hand. She nodded at him. A quiet acknowledgement between two people who understood exactly what had just happened without needing a word to explain it. Kendra approached from behind the desk. Her voice was barely a whisper, cracking at every edge. Miss Adeyemi, I'm so sorry. I should have called upstairs the moment he started. I should have said something. I froze. Celeste looked at her, not with anger, with something closer to understanding. You can do that next time. For the next person who stands where I stood. Kendra nodded, wiped her eyes, went back to her desk carrying a weight she would not put down for a very long time. The investigation started within 48 hours. What it uncovered made the coffee incident look like a prelude. Gordon Whitfield had 4 prior complaints on file. 4, all from people of color, all buried. The first was from 3 years earlier. A black businessman from Montreal had arrived for a confirmed reservation. Gordon intercepted him in the lobby, refused to check the booking system, and told him the hotel was fully booked. It wasn't. The man filed a complaint. Hey HR marked it resolved, no further action. The second was from 2 years ago. An indigenous couple from Thunder Bay had booked the anniversary suite for their 30th wedding anniversary. Gordon moved them to a smaller room on a lower floor without explanation or consent. When they protested, he told them they should be grateful they were accommodated at all. They filed a formal complaint. It was buried in a filing cabinet and never surfaced. The third was 18 months prior. A South Asian event planner named Farida Begum had been contracted to coordinate a corporate gala in the hotel's ballroom. Gordon refused to give her access to the service entrance, insisted she use the loading dock, and referred to her in an email to staff as the outside caterer, even though she was the lead coordinator. Farida filed a discrimination complaint. The response from HR was a single paragraph stating that management had acted within its discretion. The fourth was the most recent. 9 months before Celeste walked into that lobby, a young black woman applying for a front desk position had been invited for a final interview. Gordon met her in the lobby, looked at her hair. She wore it natural, and told her the position had been filled. It hadn't. The rejection letter arrived 2 days later. She filed a complaint. Nothing happened. 4 complaints. 4 people of color. 4 times the system looked away. Celeste sat in the general manager's office reading those files with Morel standing across the desk. She closed the last folder. This wasn't a one-time incident. This was a culture, and this hotel protected it. Every single time, Morel said. Then the footage leaked. A mid-level IT employee with access to the security server. By the time internal investigators identified the source, it was already everywhere. 51 seconds of crystal-clear lobby footage. Gordon directing Celeste to a shelter. Gordon snatching her ID. Gordon grabbing her bag. Gordon pouring coffee on her coat and captured perfectly on the overhead microphone. This hotel is not for you. The clip hit social media on a Thursday afternoon. By Friday morning, it had 4 million views. By Saturday, every major network in the country was running it. CBC broke it first. CTV eyed it feed within the hour. The Toronto Star ran a front-page piece with interviews from former employees who had worked under Gordon for years and never had the platform to speak. Gordon hired a lawyer, released a statement calling the incident an unfortunate misunderstanding, claimed the coffee was accidental, claimed he was following standard visitor protocols. The footage said otherwise. The internet wasn't interested in excuses. The legal consequences came down fast. Celeste's legal team, led by Mireille, filed a formal criminal complaint. The coffee pour, captured clearly on camera, unmistakably deliberate, was charged as assault. Gordon was arrested at his Etobicoke townhouse on a Wednesday morning. Cameras on the sidewalk. Someone at the courthouse had tipped the press. Simultaneously, Mireille filed a civil suit on behalf of the 4 previous victims. The suit named Gordon individually and the Montclair's former HR leadership for systemic negligence. The proceedings lasted 9 weeks. Gordon's attorney tried every angle, claimed the complaints were exaggerated, claimed the footage lacked context, claimed Gordon had an exemplary service record. The judge wasn't moved. Gordon was found liable on all civil counts, ordered to pay restitution to each victim. His criminal case resulted in a conditional discharge, 150 hours of community service, and court-ordered anti-bias training lasting 18 months. The Montclair terminated him with cause. He forfeited his severance, his pension contributions, his employee benefits, 11 years of accumulated standing, gone in a single ruling. His name became unsearchable without the footage appearing in the first 3 results. No hotel group in the country would touch him, but Celeste didn't stop at Gordon. Punishment without reform is just revenge. She dismantled the Montclair's entire HR infrastructure and rebuilt it. Mandatory equity and inclusion training for every employee, every quarter. An independent ombudsperson with direct reporting access to ownership, not buried inside the department it was supposed to oversee. An anonymous whistleblower system with guaranteed protection from retaliation. She promoted Farida Begum, the event planner Gordon had humiliated, to director of events and partnerships for the entire Montclair group, the role she should have held 2 years ago. She hired a new chief people officer from outside the company, a woman with 12 years of experience in human rights law and workplace equity. Her first act was reopening every buried complaint in the Montclair's history, and the young black woman who'd been turned away from the front desk job, Celeste's team tracked her down, offered her the position personally. She started the following Monday. The ripple effect spread. 2 competing hotel groups in Ontario quietly launched internal reviews of their own lobby protocols. The Canadian Hotel Association invited Celeste to deliver the keynote at their annual conference that fall. The topic? The cost of looking the other way. 6 months later, the Montclair Grand looked different. Not just renovated, transformed. The marble was still there, but the walls had changed. Local artwork hung in clean frames along both sides. Paintings, photographs, mixed media from artists across the city. Warm lighting replaced the cold overhead spots. A living plant wall stretched behind the reception desk. It didn't feel like a fortress anymore. It felt like a front door. Celeste walked through that lobby on a Tuesday morning. Same time, same entrance. Different world. Staff greeted her by name, not because they had to, because they wanted to. Kendra looked up from the desk and smiled, a real one, no tightness at the corners. And near the restaurant entrance, wearing a new suit and a name badge that read Assistant Maitre d', stood Theo Moreau, the same young server who had set down his tray and spoken up when no one else would. Celeste had remembered him, recommended him for the promotion personally. She stopped. They shook hands. "How's the new role?" Theo smiled. "Like I finally work somewhere I'm proud of." Celeste nodded. "You always should have." She took the elevator to the top floor. Corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city she'd grown up in. Her desk's clean, organized. A framed photo of her grandmother beside the coffee mug she'd carried through 3 apartments and 2 cities. But there was one other item in that office that most visitors never noticed. Folded neatly inside a garment bag in the bottom drawer of her desk, a wool coat. Coffee-stained. Unwashed. Preserved exactly the way it looked the morning Gordon Whitfield tried to humiliate her out of her own building. She didn't keep it as a trophy. She kept it as a compass. A reminder that the way people treat you when they think you're nobody tells you everything you'll ever need to know about who they really are. As for Gordon Whitfield, he completed his 150 hours of community service at a settlement agency in Scarborough, helping newcomers to Canada navigate the housing system. He finished his court-ordered training. His lawyer reached quiet settlements with all 4 victims. He applied to 14 employers in the 18 months following his termination. None hired him. His name had become permanently fused to 51 seconds of footage that the internet would never forget. Last anyone heard, he'd taken a mid-level administrative position at a regional motel chain in Sudbury. No direct reports, no management title, no marble lobby. Nobody felt sorry for him. Nobody celebrated either. It was just consequence. The kind that catches you when the cameras are rolling and your own words become the evidence. So here's what I want to leave you with. The real question was never whether this kind of thing happens. We know it does. In hotels, in offices, in restaurants, in schools, in hospitals, in every polished lobby where someone decides who belongs based on what that they see instead of what they know. The real question is what we do when we see it. Celeste Adeyemi didn't win because she was wealthy. She didn't win because she had a legal team on spy speed or a $400 million portfolio behind her. She won because the truth was on her side, and she had the patience to let injustice expose itself in broad daylight. But not everyone has that power. Not everyone has a Muriel to call. Not everyone has a camera in the ceiling recording every word. That's exactly why it matters what you do when you see it happening to someone else. And there was one person in that lobby who understood that. Theo Moreau didn't have power, didn't have a title, didn't have a legal team. He had a tray of mimosas and a shaking voice, and he spoke up anyway, because he decided that being on the right side of the moment mattered more than being safe. So let me ask you this. If you were standing in that lobby, what would you have done? Would you have spoken up? Would you have stayed quiet? Be honest with yourself. Because that answer says more about who you are than any story ever could. If this one hit you somewhere real, drop a comment. Tell me what you would have done. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in the next story. And remember this, the way someone treats you when they think you're nobody, that's who they really are. Not the smile they wear for the boss, not the handshake they save for the client. The real version shows up when they think nobody important is watching and no consequences are coming. So pay attention. And if you're the one being treated like you're nothing right now, hear me. Their opinion of you is not the truth about you. It's the truth about them. Like, share, and subscribe. Real stories every week, right here on Dell Stories. And treat everyone the same. Not because you don't know who they might be, because you already know who you are. And that should be enough.